Developing VR apps without Unity or Unreal? Can this be done? Stylee says yes, so let's see what they're all about. You are listening to the How to Create VR podcast, weekly conversations with VR professional creators, designers, and producers. Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to Create VR podcast, where I speak with professional creators, designers, developers, and producers who work on VR, AR, and MR projects. I'm your host, Marcelo Lewin, founder of howtocreatevr.com. My guest today is Michael Waite, the Global Manager at Stylee in Japan. He leads the business development of Stylee in North America and Europe. Michael has presented at dozens of events around the world, including VRX 2017, as well as workshops in emerging markets like Pakistan. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Marcelo.
Well, nice to have you here. And I know it's really late over there, right?
It's about 11 p.m. Not too bad.
11 p.m. That's not bad. Yeah. And you're in Tokyo, right?
In Tokyo, in Shinjuku, right in the center.
Very cool. We're planning on doing a Japan trip this year, and it'll be our first time in Japan. So after the podcast, I got to get a lot of tips from you.
Sounds good. Hit me with them.
Cool. Well, hey, I found out about you guys. I don't remember how, but I think I was just browsing the web. I always browse the web for VR stuff. And you guys create a really cool VR editor, which we're going to get into it later. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay. Like yourself and like, I guess most people, I'm pretty new to VR. I didn't start getting into it until last November when I joined this company. Before that, I was teaching English in Japan and Korea for the past 5 years. And before that, studying philosophy, which is not so different from VR, actually. Yeah, definitely. I think you need a little bit of that anyway to be in this industry. So how did you get into VR itself? I mean, you said you're recent to VR, but how did you get into it? And what was your first experience like? Well, I guess before, like I mentioned, before I got into VR, I got into R, reality, through philosophy. In philosophy, you're often asking the questions like, what is reality? How do I know what I know? What is the meaning of life? And for anyone who's put on a VR headset, especially if it's good VR, it'll look quite real and feel quite real. We can imagine 50 years from now where it looks just like this. And the first time you take off a VR headset and you exit back into this real world, you start to feel like, this is different now. Is this still VR? Is like my biology, is my visual system and brain fooling me, playing some trick on me, feeding me some fake kind of reality? And so philosophers have been asking these questions since Plato, from Kant to Descartes, up until now. And so I was thinking about all of these questions since I was a kid, and then I studied it. And then now getting into actual VR, which, to answer your question, was last November when I joined this company. These questions hit me and hit everyone in a more visceral, real way when you take off that headset and wow. For example, you can imagine it's 50 years from now, and from birth, we put on headsets, these super good headsets that look just like, that gives us experience of reality that looks just like this. And you keep it on these humans from birth till death. I mean, they might think that's real. That's all there is. These games that are in there. And maybe we're in a similar position now. So I know I'm getting a little off track, but all these questions, just tight, it just brings it all back to philosophy, all the VR stuff. So I'm really excited to be putting the two together now. And my first VR experience was a Mario Kart. Throughout Tokyo, there are different VR centers, game parks, type of places where you can play VR video games. And there I went there with my coworkers, and we played Mario Kart together. We could talk to each other with the microphones and see each other racing through. And you were hooked from that point on. Yeah, I was like, wow, this is great. This is exactly what I need. And I think maybe for yourself too, and a lot of people, it's just that experience of experiencing VR. It gets you addicted almost. Well, I mean, to me, VR, it is like an addiction. Yesterday, I spent about an hour and a half inside of VR, and I did the Apollo 11 experience. And I was almost crying because it was like I literally went to the moon. And at the end of it, I have experienced going to the moon.
with the astronauts. It was just a crazy experience. It wasn't like anything else. It wasn't like watching a flat video or playing a video game. It was, you were there. And that to me is what VR is all about, right? But of course, with philosophy, like you said, that brings up even more questions, which we're not even going to touch upon. But like you said, once like my kids, are they going to know the difference between reality and VR? And will it even matter at that point?
Yeah, maybe it doesn't even matter. You get to the point of, well, maybe it doesn't matter if it's real or not. Let's just enjoy the VR and find some meaning in the experience and create VR contents that make us and others happy the way we're living. We do the same with our lives. Maybe
right.
It doesn't matter which one's real. We can just treat them in the same way. And that might be the way the future of VR is, that once it starts to become some pervasive part of our lives, it won't be a separation, perhaps.
Right. And I know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but hey, we'll leave it for the next podcast episode. I don't want to bring up, exactly. So what's your favorite VR experience today? I'm assuming you've tried a bunch of experiences. What do you have as a favorite one right now?
A bunch. Just recently I tried this one called Dreams of Dolly. Have you tried that?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so I'm not a big art person. I do enjoy walking through museums a little bit, but I don't fully appreciate it enough. I want to, but this 2D, 3D art, it doesn't hit me the way VR does. So with Dreams of Dolly, it puts you into one of Dolly's paintings. I think it's archaeological reminiscence of Miller's Angelus, if that's how you say it. And instead of just looking at it in this square, the way we typically, this rectangle on the painting on the wall, you're inside there looking up at the statues and standing behind the people holding hands and seeing the birds in the sky. And it's just this peaceful kind of dreamlike exploration, very basic kind of experience. I do like the gaming VR, but I think I like these more explorative art type of experiences better. There's another one called The Chair. It's been around since, I think, DK2, and you just sit in a chair and you watch the world around you, just looking at it. And kind of like a spot the difference, like a VR spot the difference. You look around and you turn your head and you look back and the world has changed. So it kind of starts to play with your mind and that kind of thing. Those are a couple of my favorites.
So it sounds like you like to be an explorer.
I want to explore in VR. That's kind of what Stylee is doing too. Stylee's attracting such people who want to explore their minds in VR. And I guess we'll get into that more with your further questions.
Well, this is just a perfect segue. Let's talk about Stylee. And what is it? How does it work?
Like you mentioned, it's a VR editor. It's a content creation kind of tool. Like there is Unity, there is Unreal. These are doing similar things. I guess the difference with Stylee is it's cloud-based, browser-based, and most importantly, it's non-coding. It's drag and drop kind of model where, of course, you can import from other tools like Blender, Maya, Unity, YouTube, all kinds of a dozen or so different tools. But the barrier is so low, so anybody can create VR content and share that immediately. It's sort of like a WordPress of VR, roughly.
Interesting. That's actually a good way of putting it. But who's your target audience? Is it like a high-end VR creator that works day in, day out with, let's say, Unreal or Unity or somebody else?
A lot of VR tools and VR companies are targeting gaming. They're targeting e-commerce. They're focusing on monetization, making money, these kinds of things. We are focusing on basically non-gaming, non-commercial type of things, more of creatives, artists, musicians, fashion designers, some place for people to just, the everyday person who has no knowledge of coding or Unity or Unreal or any of this, just anybody to instantly be able to create a virtual world and then instantly be able to view that virtual world in any headset. These kinds of people, they're not, artists, they're not looking to make money. Some of them are, but more importantly, they just want a place where they can express themselves, where they can see what they've made and dive deeper into it and explore around. Musicians, all of these people, just this creative tool. That's all it is right now.
Right now. So question for you on that, just to expand a little bit, are you guys looking at the enterprise market and let's say companies taking it to quickly iterate projects or even use it as a way to prototype projects that they're going to be doing within Unity later on?
It definitely will go in that direction, but that's not what we're targeting just yet.
Currently, right. And to that effect, you guys have a plugin for Unity. What's the connection? I mean, If you're using yours, which is an editor, how does that plugin work within Unity itself?
Okay, so basically within our editor, there are already existing 3D models and assets, which you can just drag and drop. Of course, you want to create richer content, and Unity allows you to make certain animations and really nice content that everyone needs. So with the plugin, you just download it from Steam or from our website, and then once you've made your 3D models or your assets in Unity, you can just import it directly into Stylee.
Oh, I see. So it's a plugin to export out of Unity into Stylee, not the other way around.
Not the other way around. So you want to take your Unity content and put it into Stylee. It's sort of like a basic sort of sandbox where you just dump everything into it from Maya and Blender and Tilt Brush and blocks and everything like Instagram, YouTube, and of course Unity as well.
I see. So you have integration with blocks and other 3D web apps.
Right, and using the Google Poly API,
right.
You can use that directly within Stylee.
Okay. So can you give us a quick overview of the workflow? If I'm starting a new app, just guide us through a workflow of using Stylee for creating a quick VR experience.
Yeah, so basically anyone can get straight into the VR content creation with it. Put your email in, password. It loads up a sort of empty space, and you just start at the top. There's a little button you click, assets, and you start dragging in skies and ground and objects. And then you get a little bored and say, I want more assets. So you start importing .obj or FBX or Blender files in. You start playing with Unity, building stuff there. Within itself, even if you're not importing, you can still make very rich, great worlds. But the first step is just putting the already existing assets there and then expanding out into the other tools and bringing it all together back into Stylee. But it's all non-coding. It's just import, drag, drop, rotate, scale, simple things that I think even a child could use it.
But can you do interactivity with it as well? So saying that this object can collide with this object, or you can grab this object and throw it. Can you do those kinds of things?
Those kinds of things you would need to create in Unity and then import into Stylee. Of course, we're implementing these features, and so if you revisit Stylee in a few months or 6 months, it's constantly changing, and more and more features are coming. But right now, the interaction is mostly limited to just moving around, the teleporting, and then some basic grabbing and stuff you can if you import that from Unity.
I see. Okay, so that makes sense. So a lot of the interactivity you would do through Unity, export it via your plugin into Stylee, and then use it there. But in the future, you're saying that you're probably going to bring some of that interactivity to the web browser, which kind of makes sense. I mean, to make it simpler for people to use.
Right. So if there's always a sort of balance you want to play between usability, how easy it is to use, and how many features. So how many features is the right amount of features? It's a difficult sort of balancing act.
Right, and it also depends on the target market, right, that you're going after as well.
We're trying to target like the basic general public, the non-coding people, everybody. Like with YouTube, anyone can make a YouTube video. You don't need some special kind of coding skills. We want to have sort of something like this YouTube of VR, where just people have some imagination, they make some content, they share it, and people view it. And it doesn't need to be for any particular purpose. It could be funny, it could it's just for fun.
Speaking of viewing it, currently, and this was a little disappointing for me because I'm on Rift, currently your VR viewer app, which allows you to view all your stuff you create, only works with the Vive, right? Do you guys have plans on making it work for the Rift, or am I wrong there?
No, I guess, I don't want to say you're wrong, but you're wrong.
All right, well, that's good. I'm happy then.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, why you couldn't view it with the Rift. It works with all the major devices, the Rift, the Vive, all of the Windows mixed reality devices, the mobile ones like the Samsung Gear VR, Google Daydream.
So I'm definitely going to try it out.
Yeah, try that out. And I love the Rift. It fits so nicely. It's my favorite.
I like the Rift too. Now, you guys were mentioning about importing graphics and all that. Yeah, you said you have a asset store, right, of 3Ds graphics?
It's not a store. It's just a sort of existing library that's in everyone's Stylee account, and you just pop those into your scene, the ones you like. And then there's Google Poly is implemented there, and then there's another little tab in that same 3D model section of your editor where you can import 3D models from basically any of the 3D modeling tools like SketchUp, Blender, Mixamo, Maya, Blocks, Tilt Brush, and there are probably some others that I'm not even aware of.
Now, you mentioned before no coding necessary, but are you guys looking, or is it in your roadmap, to expand and add some scripting capabilities, like even minor, simple stuff? But are you guys looking at doing that, or that's totally not what you're trying to do?
From what I understand, that's not what we're trying to do. You can, of course, do visual scripting with using Playmaker or something like this, but using C#, you currently can't make something in Unity with C#. You can't put that into Stylee. You have to use Playmaker. You can import lighting systems, particle systems, UI elements, shaders, amplified shader, Mechanim. All of these things you can use, but we don't allow the actual scripting yet. And in the future, as things change, we understand we'll have to adapt, and maybe we have to, yeah. But there's no plans yet. Yeah.
Can you add 360 videos to a Stylee scene?
In a sense, yeah. So there's YouTube already integrated inside the platform, and you just search the category, type in the video, or put the URL there, and then from there you can choose the different frames you want. You can choose a 360 frame for any YouTube video, or there's all kinds of other funny kinds of shapes, stars and bubbles, and I don't know who wants these, but there's all kinds of different ways you can frame each YouTube video, and 360 is the most popular one.
I work a lot in e-learning, and 360 video is pretty big for that. So being able to import 360 videos and connect scenes together and have people go through all these scenarios is a great feature. I'm always looking for a way to iterate projects very quickly.
Yeah, so it's really quick. You just click on the video, it goes into Stylee, you select 360, and it might not be like the best 360 video always, depending on the video, but you can play around with that and easily make some kind of 360 experience.
Now, your website states that Stylee is a new and innovative VR distribution platform. What do you mean by VR distribution platform? Do you guys mean it in a generic way, or you just mean that the way you're creating your own scenes and then distributing through your website?
It distributes to all the different VR headsets automatically without having to go through that application process, paying money, all of that to get to each individual store. You don't have to put it on the Oculus Store and put it on the Windows Store and put it on it's Steam, all of this. It's just when you make something, you just plug in your headset, open up the Stylee application, and you're viewing it. So in this sense, you're distributing. Just the fact that it goes to all the headsets.
Right. So you mean just having it easier instead of having to go through all these stores. So with that in mind, SuperMedium, which is a web VR browser that got released, and they're trying to do where you can easily find just web VR websites everywhere. Do you guys have any plans in the future allowing users to export what they've created as a web VR and just publishing it where it's just on the web? Is that something that's in your roadmap?
I'm not aware of any of these plans. Who knows? In the future, you should put on the CEO, Masahiro Yamaguchi, and he can answer all of these even richer questions for you. I just got to teach him some English in the meantime.
Speaking of that, right? Because he said teaches English because he's Japanese. And you guys, like we said at the beginning, you guys are based in Japan. So let's talk a little bit about what's the VR market like in Japan?
Japan, as you might know, is one of the larger VR markets in the world. US is number 1. Japan is often listed as number 2. Maybe it's China. No one's really sure. On the consumer side, there's a lot going on. Like I mentioned, I went to this place called the Shinjuku Vr Zone. It's a VR park entertainment center where you basically play VR games. There are at least 5 or 6 of these that I know of. Some of the arcades here have partnered up with some VR companies and making VR there. You can find VR in some internet cafes, some karaoke places, as well as there might even be a couple hotels that have it. It's just sort of sprinkled around. It hasn't caught on in like the home yet. And when I mention that I have like VR in my house, people are like, is that possible? Which is probably not so different from the US.
Yeah, right now here it's really enthusiasts. I mean, it's starting to become pretty big, obviously. But right now you've got people that are just on the bleeding edge starting to adapt it, kind of like me. They're always looking for the next new thing, but it's not super huge, but it's definitely going to get there.
Right. And there's some other like funny things here. Like there's this, it's not very good actually, but they did good marketing. There's a virtual reality airline. So if you want to pretend like you're traveling, you can sit in this sort of fake airplane and you put on the VR device. This is in Japan. And you start to experience this virtual takeoff and landing and going through the city, and they're serving you food. And
I read about that.
Or first class, and it just makes me laugh.
But I heard it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
Depending where you fly to, quote unquote, right? They give you that food from that country.
Yeah, it's cool. It is cool. It's a very cool idea. I like the mindset behind it, and it is a good experience.
So what does the future hold for Stylee? What's the ultimate goal? Where do you see Stylee, let's say, in 5 years from now?
First, we got to see where is VR 5 years from now? What's the connection between VR and AR? We are working on some AR stuff too, kind of behind the scenes. And so Stylee might be some blend of AR and VR in the future in 5 years or 10 years. It'll probably be something like a kind of YouTube of VR where everyday people create content and upload that and share that. And it's just this basic database of all kinds of content. And just like on YouTube, some people are monetizing and some people are on there for different reasons. They're mostly on there just to share their ideas, make some cool video, and connect with people and connect all these videos together. And this is what I imagine Stylee will be, sort of a WordPress / YouTube of VR.
So really focusing on that end consumer.
Focus on the end consumer, but yeah, we'll see what happens. It might be bigger than that. It might be different than that.
Well, everything in VR changes on a daily basis.
The VR changes a lot. It's like, okay, this is what we want to do. But, okay, this happened. This is the vision.
Right. So where would you like to see VR? Let's say, I don't know, 10 years from now. Where do you see VR itself? Or where would you like to see it?
Yeah, like it's always a mixture. The answer is going to be a mixture of both of those because it's hard to know where it'll be. I feel that VR will be something like the internet is now or smartphones are now. When you go on the internet, there's all kinds of things you do. There's social media, and there's shopping, and there's entertainment. And I imagine there'll be this sort of kind of virtual internet where instead of right now you have to jump between different experiences from the game to the e-shop, e-commerce, whatever. It'll be like actual virtual worldwide web where you just walk through this world and here you're shopping and then you walk over here and you're talking to your friends and then you go make something and then you check your email and it's all connected. Like everything we're doing it on the internet now, I don't see why we wouldn't be able to do it all in VR. And there'll be sort of this, I don't know if there'll be two versions of the internet. One will be one we have now, which is like a bunch of, looks like these pages we're flipping through and clicking through. And one's sort of that same thing, but like crunched up in a ball and that you're one big space where you're virtually exploring and doing different things in. But there will be, I think, some version of this virtual internet with all of the basic functions it has now, just in a more virtual way.
Yep. I personally agree with you on that. I think with AR coming in, I mean, we're going to go from AR and VR just to MR, mixed reality. And I mean, you're going to go in and out of your reality into virtual reality and back and forth, and it'll just be one seamless thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
Which I think will scare a lot of people, but hey, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, but I mean, TV, like movies scared people the first time movies came out, and TV probably scared people, and phones, I'm sure the first time someone talked on the phone, that was pretty scary.
Right. It's technology. We have to adapt it.
Yeah, but this is what I see is going to happen, whether it's good or bad or ethical or unethical, I don't know. But this is what I see and kind of hope.
Well, cool, Michael. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. It was fun speaking with you.
Yeah, it's fun speaking with you too.
If people want to get a hold of you guys or learn more about Stylee, what's your recommendation?
The best place to go is just to go to the website, which is stylee.cc, so styly.cc. Or you could contact me at mike.waite@stylee.cc.
We'll put those in the show notes so people can just click on that.
Yeah, you don't need to contact me directly. Just go to the website, stylee.cc, start exploring around. There'll be some contact info there, all of that, and you'll figure it out from there.
And it's a free account, so it's easy to register.
It's a free account, and it's easy to sign up for just from there. And it's all in the browser. It's browser-based, cloud-based, so you could do everything right there from that website.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Michael, and to the rest of you. I'm glad you were here with me. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and like us. For more episodes, check out howtocreatevr.com/iTunes or howtocreatevr.com/SoundCloud. If you are ever in the Southern California area, we have a monthly meetup with lots of great presentations. You can join or RSVP for our next meetup at howtocreatevr.com/meetup. Until the next episode, I'm your host, Marcelo Lewin. Cheers, everyone.